The sun blazed mercilessly in the sky, its scorching rays casting a relentless heat over the bustling gas station, which was abuzz with ceaseless activity. The air shimmered with the intensity of the sun's glare, creating a mirage-like effect over the rows of parked cars and the busy pumps. Amid this sweltering environment, Vicky, the devoted gas station attendant, moved with remarkable efficiency and grace. Her face, illuminated by the unforgiving sun, was adorned with a sheen of perspiration that mingled seamlessly with the steady warmth of her unwavering smile. Despite the oppressive heat and the constant flow of customers, she carried herself with a serene composure, greeting each person with a heartfelt warmth that seemed almost to defy the harshness of the day. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Vicky's hands worked with dexterous precision as she attended to the needs of each customer. She seamlessly assisted a young family in filling up their minivan, her movements fluid and practiced, embodying both efficiency and kindness. Next, she turned her attention to a young woman struggling with a finicky gas pump. Her demeanor remained calm and reassuring, providing a steady presence amidst the flurry of activity. Just as she was about to take a momentary respite, her gaze fell upon an elderly man approaching the station with measured, unsteady steps. His appearance spoke volumes. His clothes were frayed and worn, a visual testament to the passage of time and the hardships he had endured. Each hesitant step seemed to echo with the weight of his worries, and his eyes darted around, revealing a deep-seated anxiety that seemed to transcend the immediate concern of refueling his vehicle. "Excuse me," the elderly man's voice quavered with a mixture of embarrassment and trepidation. "I seem to have left my wallet at home, and I don't have enough money to cover the gas I've already pumped." Vicky's heart went out to him as she looked into his eyes, seeing not just the present anxiety but the shadows of a lifetime's struggles etched into his weathered face. His vulnerability was palpable, and it resonated deeply with her sense of compassion and empathy. Without a moment's hesitation, Vicky stepped closer, her expression softening into one of genuine concern and understanding. "Please don't worry, sir," she said with a soothing, reassuring tone. "We'll figure something out together." She reached into her purse with deliberate calm, her fingers touching the familiar fabric of her own money. She counted out the exact amount needed with careful precision, her heart swelling with a deep sense of purpose. Handing the money to him, she offered a smile that was both warm and encouraging. "You can repay me whenever it's convenient for you," she said gently. "There's no rush or pressure. What matters is that you have what you need right now." Vicky's gesture was more than just a simple act of kindness. It was a moment of human connection in a world often overshadowed by indifference. As the elderly man's face lit up with a grateful, relieved expression, Vicky felt a profound sense of fulfillment, knowing she had made a difference in someone's day. As Lewis introduced himself with a trembling voice, Vicky could see the profound impact her gesture had on him. His eyes, brimming with emotion, glistened with unshed tears as he carefully accepted the money from her hands. His fingers shook slightly, and his voice, choked with gratitude, barely managed to say, "Thank you. I promise I'll come back to pay you." The sincerity in his eyes was unmistakable, and Vicky's own eyes mirrored her genuine belief in his words, conveying a trust that transcended the immediate circumstances. As Lewis turned to leave, her colleagues, who had been observing the scene with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism, began to whisper amongst themselves. "Are you serious?" one of them scoffed, his voice dripping with derision. "You believe that old man? He's probably just trying to scam you." Another colleague joined in with a smirk, adding, "Yeah, there are always con artists around here. You've just been taken for a ride, Vicky." Her colleagues exchanged doubtful glances, their skepticism palpable, but they chose to remain silent. Vicky watched as Lewis walked away, his gait slightly more assured, clutching a small piece of paper with his name and address, an unspoken promise of his return. A blend of hope and apprehension swirled within her as she pondered whether her act of kindness would be honored or if she would be left waiting for a return that might never come. The remainder of the day passed in a haze of unrelenting heat and constant activity. Vicky continued her duties with the same unwavering dedication, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the elderly man. She found herself contemplating the circumstances that had led him to seek help at that very moment. Each customer she assisted seemed to bring her thoughts back to the encounter, making her reflect on the small but significant act of kindness she had extended. The day's trials and her colleagues' doubts could not diminish the quiet satisfaction she felt in her heart, knowing she had acted with compassion and integrity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, its fading light stretched long, somber shadows across the pavement of the now quieter gas station. The relentless activity of the day gradually gave way to an eerie calm, and Vicky seized the moment to rest. Leaning against the counter inside the station, she savored the cool air that offered a stark contrast to the oppressive heat that had ruled the day. The respite was short-lived, however, as Mr. Thompson, the station manager known for his unyielding demeanor, approached her with a serious expression. "Vicky," he began, his voice carrying a hint of detachment, "I heard about today's incident. Is it true that you took money from the register?" Vicky's heart sank as she straightened up, her eyes meeting his with a mix of apprehension and resolve. "No, Mr. Thompson," she responded, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I used my own money. The gentleman was in need, and I chose to believe him." Mr. Thompson exhaled deeply, his frustration evident as he rubbed his temples, a gesture of the weight of his responsibilities. "I understand that you meant well," he said, his tone softening slightly but still firm. "However, we have rules for a reason. Making exceptions, no matter how noble the cause, can open the door to complications and misuse." The sadness in Vicky's eyes was palpable, but she remained resolute, her voice carrying a quiet strength. "I acted on what I felt was right," she said softly but firmly. "Sometimes, bending the rules is necessary to uphold our humanity." Mr. Thompson's gaze lingered on her for a moment, as if weighing the gravity of the situation. Finally, he shook his head, a sign of finality and regret. "I'm sorry, Vicky," he said with a resigned tone. "It's too late now. You're dismissed." The sky was now painted with hues of twilight, mirroring the bittersweet end to her day. Despite the pain of losing her job, Vicky's conscience remained unburdened. She had acted according to her principles, and that was something she could hold on to, even as she faced the uncertain path ahead. As the sun began its gradual descent, painting the gas station in a warm, amber glow, the frenetic pace of the day slowly wound down. The once busy pumps were now intermittently occupied, and the incessant roar of engines had softened to the soothing murmur of distant birdsong. Vicky took a rare moment of respite, wiping the sweat from her brow as she allowed herself a brief pause to reflect. Her tranquility was abruptly shattered by the sharp, authoritative voice of the station manager, Mr. Thompson. "Vicky, could you come to my office?" His tone, though outwardly neutral, carried a subtle edge that sent a pang of unease through Vicky's heart. With a sense of foreboding, Vicky followed Mr. Thompson into the small, dimly lit office tucked away at the back of the station. The space was cluttered and dated, with peeling posters and stacks of disorganized paperwork, creating an air of neglect. Mr. Thompson settled behind the desk, his expression stern, and gestured for Vicky to take a seat across from him. "I've been informed about what occurred today, Mr. Thompson began, his voice measured as he folded his hands in front of him. "Did you take money from the register?" Vicky shook her head slowly, her voice calm but tinged with an undercurrent of sadness. "No, Mr. Thompson. I used my own money to help that gentleman. He was in a difficult situation, and I chose to believe him. He assured me he would come back to reimburse me." Mr. Thompson let out a heavy sigh, leaning back in his chair as if the weight of his decision pressed down upon him. "Vicky, we have rules for a reason," he said, his voice carrying a note of weary resignation. "If we start making exceptions, it sets a dangerous precedent. Other customers might begin to expect leniency, which could lead to a host of complications for us." Vicky's heart sank further as she listened to his words. She understood the necessity of rules, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that the essence of her actions, compassion, and human connection was being overshadowed by strict adherence to policy. Her gaze remained steady, reflecting the internal conflict between her sense of duty and her commitment to kindness. "I understand the rule," Vicky responded, her voice unwavering despite the storm of emotions roiling within her. "But there are times when compassion should take precedence over policies. That man was in a dire situation, and I couldn't bring myself to turn him away." The manager's expression hardened, his gaze resolute. "I respect your sentiment, Vicky, but we cannot afford to base our operations solely on trust. The rules are there for a reason, and unfortunately it's too late to alter the course. I have no alternative but to terminate your employment." The impact of his words hit Vicky with a jarring intensity, like a physical blow to the chest. The sting of loss and betrayal was palpable, and she felt tears welling in her eyes. Yet she blinked them away with fierce determination, unwilling to let them betray her inner turmoil. "I understand," she said softly, her voice carrying a quiet strength. "But I don't regret my decision." "Mr." Thompson gave a curt nod, his expression devoid of warmth. "You can collect your personal belongings and leave. I'll arrange for your final paycheck." With a heavy heart and a sense of resignation, Vicky rose from her seat, her legs feeling unsteady and weak beneath her. As she slowly gathered her things, her movements seemed almost automatic, the weight of her departure pressing heavily on her shoulders. Her colleagues watched from a distance, their expressions ranging from sympathetic pity to indifferent curiosity. The door closed behind her with a finality that echoed in the silence of the station. Stepping outside, Vicky was greeted by the cool, refreshing evening air, which mingled with the warmth of her unshed tears. The streets were bathed in the gentle, golden light of dusk, casting long shadows that mirrored the somber mood of her heart. The walk home was a blur of fading light and introspection. Arriving at her modest home, Vicky was greeted by the familiar comfort of the small, cozy living room she shared with her mother, Rachel, and her daughter, Anna. The simple, unpretentious decor spoke of a life marked by hard work and modest means. Rachel, her face lined with concern, looked up from her knitting as Vicky entered. "Vicky, what's wrong?" Rachel's voice was gentle, laced with worry. Vicky took a deep breath, steadying her voice as she prepared to share the news. "I lost my job today," she said, the words carrying the weight of her grief. Anna, who had been absorbed in her homework at the kitchen table, looked up with a furrowed brow, her young face reflecting her concern. "Why, Mom?" she asked, her voice filled with a mix of confusion and worry. Vicky recounted the events of the day with calm composure but couldn't entirely mask the sadness in her tone. She spoke of the elderly man she had helped, her decision to use her own money, and the subsequent dismissal that had followed. Rachel listened attentively, her eyes revealing a blend of apprehension and quiet pride in her daughter's principled actions. Anna's eyes brimmed with tears, though she quickly wiped them away, attempting to remain strong and supportive of her mother. The room filled with a tender, shared understanding of the day's trials, and a collective resolve to face the uncertainty ahead together. "That was a truly kind thing you did," Rachel said softly, her voice imbued with a deep, heartfelt empathy. "Sometimes doing what's right comes with its own set of challenges, but it's crucial to remain true to yourself and your principles." Vicky nodded, her heart weighed down by the events of the day, yet her resolve remained intact. Rachel's eyes, though filled with concern, maintained a composed exterior. "We'll figure things out, Vicky. We always manage." she said with a reassuring tone, trying to infuse hope into their shared struggle. The days that followed unfolded as a series of small yet significant trials. To sustain the household, Rachel made the heart-wrenching decision to part with some of the family's cherished heirlooms. With a heavy heart, she sold a silver brooch, a beloved family keepsake passed down through generations, and a delicate porcelain tea set that had been a centerpiece of their home for years. Each transaction was a painful but necessary step towards financial stability. Vicky watched with profound sadness as her mother, with a stoic facade, handed over these precious items to a local antique dealer. The pain of relinquishing these cherished possessions was evident, but Rachel's determined smile attempted to mask the anguish. "We'll find a way to buy them back one day," Rachel said with a hopeful glimmer, trying to uplift her daughter's spirits amidst the sorrow. Anna, acutely aware of the growing tension at home, began to feel anxious about her schooling. One evening, as Vicky gently tucked her into bed, Anna's small voice trembled with worry. "Mom, do you think I'll have to stop going to school?" Vicky's heart ached at her daughter's innocent concern. She brushed a stray lock of hair from Anna's forehead, her touch tender and reassuring. "We'll do everything in our power to ensure you can stay in school, sweetie. Just concentrate on your studies, okay?" Anna nodded, though the anxiety in her eyes was palpable. Vicky understood that the financial strain was not only affecting her but was also a burden borne by her entire family. The once vibrant and lively home now resonated with the unspoken fears and uncertainties about their future. Despite the hardships, the family's resilience and solidarity shone through their supportive actions. Rachel continued to knit with unwavering dedication, crafting beautiful scarves and blankets that she sold at the local market. Anna, despite her young age, found ways to contribute, volunteering to help with household chores and even attempting to sell her handmade friendship bracelets to her classmates. Through these trials, the family's bond grew stronger, and their shared determination to navigate their challenges together became a testament to their enduring strength and unity. Each small act of kindness and resilience helped to preserve their sense of hope and togetherness, even in the face of adversity. Vicky's days were consumed by relentless job hunting, each morning marked by the click of her keyboard as she applied application, and each afternoon filled with the anxious anticipation of interviews. The process was grueling, and with every rejection letter, her spirit was tested. Yet she remained undeterred, driven by an unwavering resolve to provide for her family and to overcome the daunting obstacles before her. One quiet evening, as the family sat around the dinner table in their modest home, the unexpected chime of the doorbell sliced through the ambient sounds of their simple meal. Vicky's heart fluttered with a mix of hope and apprehension, her thoughts immediately racing back to Louis. With a mixture of trepidation and excitement, she answered the door, only to find Louis standing on the doorstep, holding a small, weathered envelope. "I came to repay you," Louis said, his voice trembling slightly, but filled with deep gratitude and a touch of pride. As he handed Vicky the envelope, she could see the sincerity etched into his expression. The envelope contained the exact amount she had given him at the gas station, a symbol of his promise. Overwhelmed by a surge of emotions, Vicky's eyes filled with tears as she accepted the envelope. "Thank you," she managed to whisper, her voice quivering with a blend of relief and gratitude. "Thank you for keeping your word." Louis's face softened into a smile, a single tear tracing a path down his cheek. "Thank you for believing in me," he said, his voice laden with heartfelt appreciation. "Your faith in me means more than you could ever know." Vicky, moved by his gesture, invited Louis inside. The warmth and generosity of her family greeted him with open arms. As they shared a meal, the atmosphere in the room transformed into one of genuine connection and empathy. They learned about Louis's life, the hardships he had endured, and the journey that had brought him to their door. It was a moment of profound understanding, a testament to the power of human kindness and the way it can forge connections that transcend mere financial transactions. As the evening drew to a close, Vicky felt a renewed surge of hope and inspiration. She had weathered significant challenges, but witnessing the ripple effect of her compassion had reignited her faith in the strength of the human spirit. Surrounded by her supportive family and buoyed by the lessons of resilience and kindness, Vicky was confident that they could face whatever came their way. The following week brought a glimmer of optimism. Vicky received a phone call from a local nonprofit organization, which had heard of her generous act of kindness and the perseverance she had shown. They offered her a position as a community outreach coordinator, a role that not only provided financial stability but also aligned perfectly with her deep-seated values of helping others. With a heart brimming with gratitude and renewed purpose, Vicky accepted the job offer. When she shared the joyous news with her family, their home erupted with the sounds of laughter and hopeful chatter, a stark contrast to the somber days of struggle they had endured. The future, once clouded by uncertainty, now gleamed with the promise of new beginnings and the continued strength of their united, loving spirit. In the end, Vicky's story and Raphael's dedication intertwined, illustrating the profound impact of compassion and empathy in the face of adversity. Vicky's unwavering belief in doing the right thing, despite the personal cost, eventually opened doors to new opportunities and enriched her connections with others. Similarly, Raphael's commitment to caring for Eduardo, despite the scorn of his colleagues and the discomfort of the situation, reflected a deep-seated belief in the intrinsic value of every human life. As Raphael continued to care for Eduardo, the beggar's condition slowly improved. The initial days were marked by careful monitoring and attentive care, with Raphael meticulously tending to Eduardo's needs. Though Eduardo remained largely unresponsive, Raphael's dedication never wavered. He spoke to Eduardo with a gentle and encouraging tone, hoping that his words might offer comfort and a glimmer of hope. One day, Eduardo's eyes fluttered open, and he managed to whisper a few words of gratitude. Raphael's heart swelled with a mix of relief and joy at the sight. It was a small but significant victory, proof that his efforts were making a difference. As Eduardo began to regain his strength, he started sharing fragments of his story with Raphael. He spoke of his past, the struggles that led him to the streets, and the accident that had brought him to the hospital. Raphael listened intently, feeling a deep sense of empathy for Eduardo's plight. He realized that behind every person's suffering was a complex narrative of pain, hope, and resilience. Raphael's dedication to Eduardo was not just about medical care, it was about offering a sense of dignity and humanity to someone who had been neglected and marginalized. Word of Raphael's compassion and the remarkable recovery of Eduardo eventually spread through the hospital. Although some of the staff remained skeptical, others began to reflect on Raphael's actions. They saw how one person's kindness could have a ripple effect, challenging preconceived notions and fostering a more compassionate environment. Eduardo's recovery was a long journey, but with Raphael's help, he slowly began to rebuild his life. The hospital staff witnessed his transformation from a frail, unconscious figure to a more hopeful and resilient individual. Raphael's unwavering commitment not only helped Eduardo physically, but also emotionally, giving him the strength to envision a better future. In time, Eduardo was discharged from the hospital, and Raphael continued to assist him in finding resources and support. The experience left a lasting mark on Raphael, reinforcing his belief in the power of compassion and the importance of seeing each person as more than just their circumstances. Vicky's and Raphael's stories intersected through the shared theme of selfless kindness. Vicky's decision to help Louis and Raphael's dedication to Eduardo demonstrated that compassion, when practiced genuinely and persistently, could create profound and lasting change. Their stories became a testament to the belief that, even in the face of adversity and judgment, kindness could shine through and transform lives in ways that were both unexpected and deeply meaningful. Raphael listened intently as Eduardo spoke, his heart aching for the man before him. It was clear that Eduardo's struggles went far beyond the physical injuries he had sustained in the accident. Raphael's empathy grew deeper as he learned about Eduardo's past and the mental health issues that had led to his current plight. "I'm so sorry you've had to endure so much," Raphael said softly. "But you're not alone anymore. We're going to work through this together." Eduardo's eyes, once clouded with despair, now showed a glimmer of hope. Raphael's words and unwavering support were beginning to make a difference. Raphael continued to offer care and encouragement, making sure Eduardo felt valued and heard. He arranged for a social worker to visit Eduardo, hoping to connect him with additional resources and support services. Despite the challenges, Raphael's persistence paid off. Eduardo's condition gradually improved, both physically and emotionally. The hospital staff, witnessing Eduardo's progress and the dedication Raphael exhibited, began to shift their attitudes. Some of the same people who had previously voiced disdain now offered their support, acknowledging Raphael's commitment and the positive impact it had on Eduardo's recovery. With Eduardo's health stabilizing, Raphael worked on transitioning him to a supportive environment. He contacted local shelters and rehabilitation centers, ensuring that Eduardo would have a place to go once he was discharged. Raphael also helped Eduardo apply for social services and mental health support, advocating on his behalf to ensure he received the assistance he needed to rebuild his life. As Eduardo prepared to leave the hospital, he expressed his profound gratitude to Raphael. "You saved my life, Raphael. I don't know where I'd be without your help." Raphael smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "You did the hard part by holding on and trusting. I'm just glad I could be here to help." Eduardo's departure from the hospital marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life. Raphael stayed in touch with him, providing encouragement and checking on his progress. Over time, Eduardo found stability and began to reconnect with his estranged family. He took steps toward addressing his mental health and rebuilding the relationships he had once lost. Raphael's dedication to Eduardo not only changed the life of one man, but also inspired those around him. The experience reinforced his belief in the importance of compassion and the profound impact it can have on individuals and communities. His actions served as a reminder that true care involves seeing beyond immediate needs and offering support that addresses the whole person. The story of Raphael and Eduardo became a powerful example of how one person's commitment to kindness can transform lives. Raphael's journey, filled with challenges and triumphs, demonstrated that even in a world where compassion is sometimes in short supply, there are individuals who make a difference through their unwavering dedication to helping others. As Eduardo's health continued to improve, the atmosphere in the hospital began to shift. The initial disdain from staff and patients gradually turned into a begrudging respect for Raphael's commitment and Eduardo's resilience. The process was slow, but the transformation was tangible. Patients who once whispered about Eduardo now engaged in quiet conversations about the lessons they had learned. Some offered small gestures of kindness, like a friendly word or a helping hand, as they saw the impact of Raphael's dedication. Even the nurse who had been the most vocal in her criticism began to soften, though her change of heart was subtle and slow. One day, as Eduardo sat up in bed for the first time since his arrival, Raphael noticed a change in his demeanor. Eduardo's eyes, once filled with fear and sadness, now held a spark of determination. Raphael took the opportunity to talk with him, sharing stories of hope and recovery. "You've made so much progress," Eduardo Raphael said, his voice filled with encouragement. "Do you feel ready to start thinking about your future?" Eduardo nodded, a hesitant but hopeful smile on his lips. "I want to believe that there's still a chance for me. I want to get better, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally too." Raphael nodded in agreement. That's the spirit. And remember, you're not alone. We're all here to help you, and you've already shown incredible strength. Eduardo's recovery continued, and Raphael's efforts were starting to be recognized not only by Eduardo but also by others. The hospital staff, witnessing the positive changes, began to discuss how they could support patients better and embrace a more compassionate approach. As Eduardo neared discharge, Raphael took the time to ensure he had a plan for his next steps. He helped him connect with local support services and community programs that could assist him in reintegrating into society. Raphael also arranged for Eduardo to meet with a counselor who specialized in mental health, ensuring that he would receive ongoing support. On the day Eduardo was discharged, the atmosphere in the hospital was markedly different from when he first arrived. Many of the same people who had once judged him now offered their well wishes. Raphael, though exhausted, felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had not only helped a man in need but also influenced a shift in perspective within his workplace. Eduardo, now with a renewed sense of hope and a plan for his future, expressed his heartfelt gratitude to Raphael. Thank you for seeing me as a person, not just a case. Your kindness has given me a chance to turn my life around. Raphael shook Eduardo's hand warmly. You took the first step by accepting help and believing in yourself. I have no doubt you'll continue to make progress. As Eduardo walked out of the hospital, Raphael watched him with a mix of pride and relief. He knew that the journey ahead for Eduardo would not be easy, but he also knew that Eduardo had the strength and support to face it. Raphael's dedication and empathy had not only transformed Eduardo's life, but it also left a lasting impact on the hospital environment. Through his actions, he demonstrated that true care goes beyond physical treatment. It's about recognizing and nurturing the human spirit in every patient. In the weeks and months that followed, Raphael continued to advocate for compassion and understanding within the hospital. His experiences with Eduardo served as a powerful reminder of the difference one person can make, inspiring others to embrace a more empathetic approach to patient care. Raphael felt a surge of determination and urgency. He knew that Eduardo's situation was dire, and he couldn't bear the thought of him being discharged into the streets, especially when he was still so vulnerable. He spent the rest of the day exploring every possible avenue to find help for Eduardo. Raphael reached out to local shelters and social services, explaining Eduardo's situation and pleading for immediate assistance. He also contacted nonprofit organizations that specialized in aiding individuals who were homeless or at risk. Unfortunately, many organizations were either full or had long waiting lists. Feeling increasingly desperate, Raphael decided to use his network. He contacted friends and acquaintances who might be able to offer temporary housing or resources. While he was able to get a few leads, the process was slow, and the urgency of Eduardo's situation weighed heavily on him. As the day of Eduardo's discharge approached, Raphael returned to Eduardo's room to offer any comfort he could. Eduardo was lying in bed, his face etched with worry. I'm doing everything I can to find a place for you, Eduardo, Raphael said, sitting beside him. I know it's not easy to hear, but I want you to know that I'm here with you, and we will figure this out. Eduardo nodded weakly, trying to muster a semblance of hope despite the uncertainty. Thank you for everything, Raphael. I don't know where I'd be without you. Raphael was determined to ensure Eduardo's safety and well-being. That evening, he finally received a call back from a local nonprofit organization that could offer Eduardo a spot in a transitional housing program. It was a temporary solution, but it would provide Eduardo with a place to stay and access to additional support services. Raphael hurriedly made arrangements for Eduardo to be transferred to the transitional housing facility. He also organized for a social worker from the organization to visit Eduardo at the hospital the following morning to ensure a smooth transition. The next day, as Eduardo prepared for discharge, Rafael was by his side, offering words of encouragement and support. A social worker from the nonprofit arrived to meet Eduardo and provide him with information about the transitional housing program. "Eduardo, this is Maria. She's from the organization that will help you once you leave the hospital. She'll make sure you have everything you need," Rafael said, introducing Maria. Maria extended a hand to Eduardo with a warm smile. "We're here to support you, Eduardo. You'll have a place to stay and people who care about your well-being. We'll help you get back on your feet." Eduardo, though still apprehensive, seemed to take comfort in the presence of Maria and the reassurance that help was on the way. Rafael felt a mixture of relief and gratitude as he watched Eduardo leave the hospital in the care of Maria. In the days that followed, Rafael kept in touch with Eduardo through the nonprofit organization. He received updates on Eduardo's progress and continued to support him as much as he could. Eduardo slowly began to rebuild his life, thanks to the support from Rafael and the transitional housing program. He found stability and started working towards his long-term goals with renewed hope and determination. Rafael's dedication and compassion had made a significant impact, not only on Eduardo's life, but also on the hospital community. His actions served as a powerful reminder of the difference one person's kindness could make, inspiring others to approach patient care with greater empathy and understanding. Rafael's heart swelled with emotion as Eduardo handed him the envelope. The unexpected turn of events left him speechless. He had dedicated himself to helping Eduardo with nothing expected in return, yet Eduardo's gesture was deeply touching. As Eduardo shared his story, Rafael learned more about the millionaire's past. The tragedies that had led Eduardo to live on the streets had been overwhelming. The financial support Eduardo provided was not just a gift, but a powerful symbol of gratitude and a new beginning. "I never expected anything like this," Rafael said, holding the check in his hands. "Your recovery and the chance to help you are more than enough." Eduardo shook his head with a firm resolve. "I want you to have this, Rafael. You've shown me that there is still kindness in the world, and that's worth more than any amount of money. I need you to accept this, not just for yourself, but for everyone you help in the future." Rafael nodded, accepting the check with a mixture of awe and humility. He knew that the money would help him support more people in need, continuing the cycle of compassion that had begun with Eduardo. As Eduardo left, Rafael felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He had faced challenges, endured skepticism, and fought for what he believed was right. In doing so, he had not only transformed Eduardo's life, but also strengthened his commitment to empathy and care. Rafael used the funds from Eduardo to support various community initiatives and outreach programs. He helped fund local shelters, provided medical supplies, and supported mental health services for individuals in need. The impact of Eduardo's gift resonated throughout the community, enabling Rafael to extend his reach and make a broader difference. In time, Eduardo continued his journey of recovery, using his experience to advocate for those who had lost their way. He spoke openly about the importance of compassion and the power of second chances, helping others understand the value of kindness. Rafael and Eduardo maintained their friendship, meeting occasionally and sharing updates about their respective journeys. Their bond was a testament to the incredible ripple effects of one person's decision to act with empathy and integrity. As Rafael looked back on the experience, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had learned that true compassion often involves going beyond one's comfort zone, and that sometimes the greatest rewards come from the most unexpected places. The encounter with Eduardo had not only changed a life, but had also deepened Rafael's understanding of the profound impact of human connection and generosity. "Mr. Salazar cleared his throat and addressed the group. "I've heard about the situation and the incredible support you've been providing Eduardo. I wanted to come by to offer my assistance and perhaps discuss some of the ways I might be able to help." Raphael looked at Mr. Salazar with a mix of curiosity and caution. "What kind of help are you referring to?" he asked. Mr. Salazar hesitated for a moment before continuing. "I know that Eduardo has been through a lot, and I've seen how dedicated Raphael has been. I've been involved with several charitable organizations, and I believe I can connect Eduardo with resources that could support his ongoing recovery and reintegration. But more importantly, I wanted to extend my support." Eduardo, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. "Thank you, Mr. Salazar. I appreciate your willingness to help. What kind of resources are you talking about?" Mr. Salazar smiled warmly. "I can help with access to mental health services, job placement programs, and even transitional housing if needed. I understand that rebuilding a life after such a long struggle requires more than just financial support. It needs a network of care and opportunities." Armando, who had been observing the conversation, took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Mr. Salazar, I appreciate your offer. I want to make amends and support Eduardo in any way I can. If some programs or services can aid his recovery and future, I'm willing to contribute as well." Raphael nodded in agreement. "It's wonderful to see this level of support. Eduardo's journey has been challenging, but with the right resources and the backing of people who care, there's a path forward." Eduardo's eyes welled up with tears as he looked at the three men. "I'm incredibly grateful for all of this. I never imagined that people would come together to help me like this. It gives me hope for the future." Mr. Salazar extended his hand to Eduardo. "We'll work together to ensure you have the support you need. Let's take this step by step and make sure you have the best chance at rebuilding your life." As they shook hands, the atmosphere in the room shifted from uncertainty to optimism. Raphael, Armando, and Mr. Salazar had come together to create a support system that would provide Eduardo with the tools he needed to thrive. The conversation continued, with Mr. Salazar outlining specific steps to connect Eduardo with the resources he needed. Raphael and Armando listened attentively, ready to assist in any way they could. By the end of the meeting, a plan had been set in motion. Eduardo would have access to mental health support, job training, and transitional housing, all thanks to the combined efforts of Raphael, Armando, and Mr. Salazar. Eduardo, Raphael, and Armando stood together, united in their commitment to Eduardo's future. As Mr. Salazar prepared to leave, he turned to Raphael and said, "Thank you for your dedication and compassion. It's people like you who make a difference in the world." Raphael smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "It's a team effort. We all play a role in making a positive change." With that, Mr. Salazar left, and the apartment was filled with a sense of hope and possibility. Eduardo looked around at the supportive faces surrounding him and knew that, despite the challenges ahead, he was not alone. Armando's anger was palpable, his eyes blazing with a mix of protectiveness and frustration. He stepped closer to Mr. Salazar, his voice steady but full of intense emotion. "Mr. Salazar, do you realize the damage you've done?" Armando said, his voice laced with pain and anger. "Eduardo didn't just lose his home, he lost his dignity and his trust in people. Your actions contributed to that suffering." Mr. Salazar's shoulders slumped as he absorbed the weight of Armando's words. "I understand. I can't undo the past, but I want to make amends," he said, his voice thick with regret. "I was wrong, and I'm here to correct my mistake. It's my responsibility to ensure that Eduardo and anyone else in need gets the support they deserve." Eduardo, still standing with a mix of indignation and exhaustion, met Mr. Salazar's gaze. "And how can I trust you now? How do I know this isn't just another show?" Mr. Salazar took a deep breath, his expression sincere. "I understand your skepticism. All I can offer is my actions. I will personally oversee your situation, and I will ensure that no further harm comes to you or anyone else. If you choose to give me a chance, I will work to restore your faith in people." Raphael, sensing the gravity of the moment, added, "Eduardo, we all have to decide what we believe in. Mr. Salazar's actions can be part of a new chapter, but it's up to us to make sure it's not just empty words. Let's hold him accountable and move forward." Eduardo looked at Raphael, then at his father, and finally at Mr. Salazar. The tension in the room was thick, but Eduardo's gaze softened slightly. "All right, Mr. Salazar, I'll give you a chance to prove your sincerity, but know that actions speak louder than words, and I will be watching." Mr. Salazar nodded solemnly. "Thank you, Eduardo. I promise I will do everything in my power to make things right." Armando, still visibly upset but trying to remain composed, said, "We'll be watching, and we expect you to follow through on your promises. My son deserves better than what he's received, and we won't settle for anything less." With a heavy but hopeful heart, Eduardo, Raphael, and Armando watched as Mr. Salazar left the apartment. The encounter had been intense and emotional, but it had also opened a door to potential reconciliation and support. As the door closed behind Mr. Salazar, Raphael turned to Eduardo and Armando. "Let's focus on moving forward. We have a chance to rebuild and to support each other through this." Eduardo nodded, though his expression was still marked by a mixture of skepticism and hope. "I'll do my best to heal and to make the most of this opportunity. Thank you all for standing by me." Armando placed a reassuring hand on Eduardo's shoulder. "We'll be here for you every step of the way, son. Together, we'll get through this." With a newfound determination, the small group began to focus on the future, ready to face the challenges ahead with hope and resilience. As Eduardo settled into his new apartment, the transformation was evident. The place was simple but welcoming, offering him a fresh start and a sense of stability he hadn't felt in a long time. The new environment provided him with the peace and comfort necessary for his continued recovery. Raphael and Armando's unwavering support was a constant source of encouragement for Eduardo. Raphael continued to assist with his physiotherapy, carefully guiding Eduardo through each exercise and celebrating even the smallest progress. Eduardo's determination was palpable, and he took every step towards recovery seriously, understanding the importance of patience and persistence. Armando, meanwhile, worked hard to make the new apartment feel like home. He took care of practical matters, ensuring that Eduardo had everything he needed for his comfort and well-being. His actions spoke volumes about his commitment to repairing their relationship and supporting Eduardo through this challenging time. Days turned into weeks, and Eduardo's health gradually improved. The initial struggles and discomfort began to ease, replaced by a growing sense of optimism and resilience. The supportive environment Raphael and Armando had created allowed Eduardo to focus on his recovery without the added stress of his previous living situation. One evening, as Eduardo and Raphael were finishing up a session of physiotherapy, Eduardo looked at Raphael with a thoughtful expression. "You've done so much for me, Raphael. I don't know how I could ever repay you," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. Raphael smiled warmly, his eyes reflecting genuine care. "Eduardo, you don't have to repay me. Seeing you get better and finding your strength again is enough. It's what friends do for each other." Armando, who had been working on some paperwork nearby, overheard the conversation and approached with a supportive nod. "Raphael's right, Eduardo. We're here for you, and that's what matters most. We're rebuilding not just your life, but our family as well." Eduardo nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and appreciation. He knew that the road ahead would still have its challenges, but he felt better equipped to face them with the support and love surrounding him. The journey of recovery was far from over, but Eduardo was determined to move forward with hope and strength. As Eduardo adjusted to his new life, he began to rebuild connections and explore opportunities for personal growth. He found comfort in small routines, like spending time with Rafael and Armando, engaging in hobbies, and slowly reintroducing himself to the world outside. The support network he had been given helped him rediscover his sense of purpose and confidence. The apartment, once a symbol of struggle and transition, became a place of healing and renewal. Eduardo, Rafael, and Armando embraced the new chapter in their lives with hope and determination, ready to face whatever came next with a strengthened bond and renewed spirit. Rafael's concern deepened as Eduardo's condition worsened. He immediately called for an ambulance, knowing that Eduardo needed urgent medical attention. Armando, who had been in another room, rushed to Eduardo's side, his face filled with anxiety. "Hang in there, Eduardo. Help is on the way," Rafael reassured, trying to keep Eduardo calm. Eduardo's breathing was labored and his face was pale, making Rafael's worry grow. Armando, struggling to keep his composure, held Eduardo's hand. "Stay with us, son. We're here for you," he said, his voice trembling with fear and hope. When the paramedics arrived, they quickly assessed Eduardo's condition and prepared him for transport. Rafael accompanied him to the hospital, while Armando followed closely behind, unable to shake off his concern. At the hospital, Eduardo was rushed into the emergency room for examination. Rafael and Armando waited anxiously in the waiting area, each lost in their thoughts and fears. After what felt like hours, a doctor approached them. "Eduardo is stable now, but he had severe chest pain that required immediate attention. We've started treatment and will monitor him closely," the doctor explained. Armando's relief was palpable, but his worry remained. "Will he be okay?" he asked, his voice reflecting the gravity of his concern. The doctor nodded reassuringly. "It's too soon to say for certain, but he is in a better condition now. We'll keep you updated on his progress." Rafael, exhausted but relieved, sat down next to Armando. "We did everything we could, and Eduardo is getting the care he needs. He's strong, and he'll get through this," Rafael said, his voice steady despite his anxiety. Armando nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude and concern. "Thank you, Rafael. I don't know how to thank you enough for everything you've done." Rafael smiled wearily. "We're in this together. Eduardo's recovery is our priority. We need to stay hopeful and support him through this." As the night wore on, Armando and Rafael took turns staying by Eduardo's side, providing support and comfort. They both knew that Eduardo's journey to full recovery was far from over, but they were determined to face the challenges ahead with resilience and unity. Eduardo's struggle was a reminder of the fragility of life, but also of the strength that could be found in the support of those who cared deeply. With Rafael and Armando by his side, Eduardo felt a renewed sense of hope and determination to overcome the obstacles in his path. In the quiet moments at the hospital, Eduardo would reflect on how much his life had changed. He marveled at how Rafael, a person he had met under such dire circumstances, had become a steadfast friend and supporter. Armando's presence was equally significant, representing a fresh start and a chance to mend the past. One evening, as Eduardo felt stronger, he looked at Rafael and Armando with a sense of gratitude and hope. "I can't begin to express how much your support has meant to me," Eduardo said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I've never felt so cared for and valued." Armando placed a comforting hand on Eduardo's shoulder. "We're a family now, Eduardo. We'll face whatever comes next together," he said, his voice steady but tender. Rafael nodded in agreement. "This is just the beginning of a new chapter. We'll keep moving forward, one step at a time," he added, his eyes reflecting the resolve and warmth that had been his hallmark throughout Eduardo's recovery. With Eduardo's condition steadily improving, Plans were made for his transition from the hospital to a more permanent living situation. Armando and Rafael worked together to ensure that Eduardo had everything he needed for a smooth recovery at home. The challenges had been significant, but the strength of their bond was undeniable. Eduardo, once on the brink of despair, now faced his future with renewed hope and a deeper appreciation for the relationships that had emerged from his trials. In the end, it was not just Eduardo's physical recovery that marked success, but also the healing of relationships and the forging of new ones. Rafael and Armando played crucial roles in this journey, showing that compassion and support could transform lives in profound ways. Thank you for joining us on this deeply moving journey. We've witnessed how compassion, determination, and the strength of supportive relationships can truly transform lives. Eduardo's story is a powerful reminder that even in the darkest moments, kindness and perseverance can light the way to recovery and renewal. So, what have you learned from Eduardo's journey and the incredible support he received from Rafael and Armando? How will you apply these lessons to your own life? We'd love to hear your thoughts and insights. Please leave a comment below sharing one thing you've learned and how you plan to bring it into practice in your own life. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories and uplifting content. Your support means the world to us.